Rewind-A-Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly. As we hear from John and Waiting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rewind-A-Dynamite with John Pollock and Wei Ting on Wednesday evening. Hello, Wei.
Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. All right. How was your weekend off?
It was good. We went out of town for a few days, so that was it was a very good time. It was good. It's a little chaotic when you're traveling with two children, but they seem to have a good time. We went a few hours out of the city.
Nice.
Yes.
What'd you do?
We went to this like kind of kids resort thing. So somewhere we've gone in the past. So went to that, and it was it was sort of just watching two kids go crazy for 2 days. But it was a fun time overall.
Good. Happy to hear it.
Yeah, kept my computer off for pretty much the entire time until like the final evening when everyone went to sleep.
That's ideal.
Yeah,
honestly.
Like I brought it with me. It was like just in case. It's like a security blanket, and didn't open it at all. And then it was great. Love not being connected to anything.
Well, I'm happy to hear it, man.
Did you get a haircut?
I did.
I could tell. I'm observing. I see some like some side fade. It seems like you went all out. You care to show off the final?
No, not right now.
Okay.
Maybe later. I got a wedding to go to this weekend.
Oh, who's
my
getting
cousins.
married? Your cousins?
Yeah.
Not to each other, I assume.
No.
Okay. Well, have a great. Is it far? Is it out of the city?
No. It's close.
I've got a few weddings coming up in a while. Everyone's.
Do you like
married.
weddings?
Depends who and where. I'm not a fan of the destination weddings where gotta like go somewhere. I mean, it would depend on the person certainly, but it's a small circle that I would travel for. Not to feel selfish or anything, but generally I have a good time at weddings. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've ever been to a bad wedding. None that come out. I went to one friend's wedding and I had to go to work right afterwards. That was kind of didn't get to enjoy it. It wasn't an indictment of the wedding. It was more so just my circumstance that you're at a wedding. You don't really want to have to go to work afterwards. You know, I didn't drink or anything. Just was there. Moral support.
Yeah. As long as the alcohol is flowing, you tend to have a good time.
Well, as I said, I couldn't drink this thing. So that kind of puts a damper on things. Well, I hope you have a great time this week. It's Saturday.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, have a great time and do check in and let us know how it goes.
Sure. You'll be getting live updates from me.
Way's never going to talk about this with me, but that's fine. What he is going to be talking with me about, he's going to be answering a lot of questions on Thursday because we have ASK-A-WAI coming out. It is that time of the month, so you still have time to get your questions into the mailbag. And where can people go, Way, to submit their questions? That there are no limits to the amount of questions and the types of questions that we get on the show. We try our best to answer them to the best of our ability with some caveats.
Forum.postwrestling.com for all of our Post Wrestling Cafe patrons. Just log in with your account and you can have access to the feedback thread for all of these shows, Rewind of Raw, Rewind of SmackDown, Rewind of Dynamite, as well as the questions thread for ASK-A-WAI. So we are hoping to answer every single one that we've asked or that we've not answered since last time.
You can also send your voice messaging to mmo.fm/postwrestling. If you want to hear your wonderful voice on the show, that is where you can direct your question to us. We will listen to it on the show and answer it. So that's coming out Thursday, postwrestlingcafe.com, and we have, I believe, 4 shows coming up on the cafe in the coming days. After ASK-A-WAI, Wayne and I will be back on Friday night with Rewind to SmackDown. But the real main event on Friday, it is episode 10, the season finale of X-Men 97. And who's going to be assembling on this show? Do we have any kind of preview of who will be on this show? The birthday boy, by the way, Rich Fan today. I believe it's his birthday.
Is that right? Happy birthday, Mr. Fan. I don't know who's going to be on the show.
Okay, well.
It'll be WH Park and Rich Fan, for sure.
Maybe it'll be a soliloquy just with a WH Park solo. No, it won't be. I'm sure there will be plenty to be had. Have you watched the season finale yet?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Can you give me a non-spoiler teaser for the folks out there? You could ruin it for me, but I won't put the listeners through that. Did it meet expectations for you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it was a tremendous finale. I think it sets a lot up for future seasons, because you could tell they're doing a lot of long-term planning for this one, and like gives you enough, I think, sort of like the heart of the relationship between the X-Men, and that really is Professor X and Magneto. You get a lot of them in this one, so yeah, it was really good.
Okay, I'm going to watch it in the coming days. How long is this last one? Do they go wild, or is it
I think it's
relative?
like 40.
That's
40
good.
minutes.
That's good. They have kept these to reasonable lengths. I do like.
Most of them are like 30 minutes, or at least like it's meant to replicate a Saturday morning cartoon, right? So it's like 20 something even.
I'm watching the second season of The Jinx.
Okay.
On
What's
the
that
Robert
about?
Durst case. The first season was incredible. Like one of the all-time great endings to a series you are ever going to see. And now it's all these years later, and we're going through the trial of Robert Durst, and it's okay. It's fine. It's no season one, but that's all I have to add.
I've never heard of this show before.
I think we've had this conversation before, and I've told you how great the finale is. If you don't bother with the second season, but the first season, all I will say for anyone out there who has not watched this, watch the first season, and I promise you the payoff is incredible. If somehow you have not heard about what happens in the finale, this is like The Sixth Sense in terms of an ending.
Okay.
Something that Way is not going to check out, I could tell. But for you, there's my recommendation. All right, so that's all coming out this week, plus Collision Course on the Café. That will be out Saturday. Sunday, we've got a new edition of Postmarks. Racy JC is going to be dropping by with David Myers and Bruce Lord, and then Sunday night. Buckle up, because the NWA podcast is going to be live approximately 8 p.m. Eastern time. They will be starting, and we've got the four-man crew of Nate Milton, Andrew Thompson, Chris Melee, and of course Two-Way Ray, and they have lots to cover from the past month, and I look forward to however late they go into the early hours of Monday morning that you can expect.
The floor is theirs.
Well, apparently the floor is yours, and they are very mindful of you, Wei Ting, the landlord of the NWA podcast.
Right. Well, they should be. They should respect my authority at all times.
Today, we did a lengthy show with Brandon Thurston, and we went really heavy on the news. We didn't have a guest today, so I don't want these shows to kind of be redundant where we're doing the same news twice. So we are going to be moving on to Dynamite. But on today's show with Brandon, we talked about all the latest filings from earlier this week in the Janelle Grant suit. We also talked about sort of the fallout of the WWE media story from last week and some of the stories that have come out over the past week, reactions and our own thoughts on it, as well as a story that Brandon had been working on involving the Oklahoma State Athletic Commission and a hearing that they have coming up in July, where there's the potential that this ruling that affected AEW by utilizing Nyla Rose could potentially change. But we will see what happens on that hearing in July. So all of that and more on today's edition of Pollock and Thurston. But tonight we got a warning from Tony Khan in the afternoon of a significant overrun that will be attached to Dynamite. Significant, we can now apply equals 12 minutes.
That's pretty significant, don't you think?
I would say so.
Longer
yeah.
than typical?
I feel they've gone around that time, but very rarely. Usually it's a couple minutes past the hour, 5 past or so.
Those are insignificant overruns.
I guess they're insignificant now that we can break it down. 12 minutes, significant. I mean, that's a good chunk of time. Like, if put it this way, if you had set your DVR to end at 10 o'clock, you would have missed a sizable portion.
Yeah, definitely.
Some big stuff that they did at the end. Well, they were in Everett, Washington, the Angel of the Winds Arena. Maybe one of the nicer named arenas that we have come across in some time.
Yeah, is that a product or is it just a nice like poem?
I'm afraid to look it up, and it's going to be like some like men's like underwear of some sort.
Oh, it's a casino.
Oh, well, there you go. You've ruined it. Sounded so nice. Like maybe it's just this.
I'm sure it's a nice casino.
The Angel of the Winds Arena. Well, if you were gambling on a big turnout, they did have about 3,500 tickets distributed, according to WrestleTix. A pretty lively crowd that they had in Everett, Washington. Not breaking any records with this amount of people, but you did have quite a number of Washington-based wrestlers that were very popular. And it looks like the state of Washington is very much like Canada, where no matter where you're from within the state, it's your hometown here in Everett. Like I was looking up where some of the places are. It's like 2 hours away from Everett. Doesn't matter. Tacoma, whether you're from Aberdeen.
Yeah, close enough.
Everyone belongs to Everett by extension.
Yeah.
So tonight they were going up against the Celtics and Cavs, as well as the Colorado Avalanche and Dallas Stars, games that we had on second and third screens. And Taz is back. Huge return with Excalibur and Tony Schiavone. And for the opening match, Don Callis was there on commentary because it was Kyle Fletcher and Jeff Cobb making his return to AEW, taking on Bryan Danielson of Washington and Jon Moxley, not of Washington. And they attacked Moxley during his entrance. And we got the New Jack version of Bryan Danielson, where his music played, and he comes out, and we just get this extended brawl as Bryan Danielson's music is playing. Now imagine New Jack brawling to this song.
Well, it's not quite the same effect as when they tried this with Wild Thing. But it's Danielson wrestling in his home state, so I guess enough of a reason to do it.
He was also in the Seahawks colors, and so the music just plays and plays, and once again, the countdown clock is back, and we're counting down to Swerve Strickland in an actual match. We're not counting down to a face-to-face. So, again, Swerve getting the countdown clock treatment. And they mentioned that Cobb's very first match in AEW was all the way back in 2020 when he was brought in as a hired henchman to take on Jon Moxley. And Excalibur warns us about the pending match between Jon Moxley and Evil that will headline Dominion in a couple of weeks, so you've been forewarned. They get the advantage on Moxley, and then he tags Danielson. Crowd goes wild for him as he fires up, and Cobb is mocking the yes chant when he misses a standing moonsault, and Danielson runs at him with the knee, but gets caught with a spin cycle, and it's Moxley in big lariat to Fletcher, and catches Cobb with the cutter. Fletcher manages a Michinoku driver. Danielson's in for the save. Crowd is into the match, and then the Busaiku knee lands on Jeff Cobb, and a roundhouse kick is delivered to Fletcher, sent into the Death Rider, and Moxley pins Kyle Fletcher in 12 minutes and 57 seconds as the BCC get the victory.
A really fun opener, I thought. Really fast pace, good home state showcase for Danielson, and overall, I just thought everybody looked good here. You know, we know what Danielson and Moxley are capable of, but these continue to be great showcases for Kyle Fletcher, who just seems so incredibly capable. You know, in these sort of like pretty big roles against, like, you know, your top stars in Moxley and Danielson. Cobb is always a welcome addition here, so I thought everybody was excellent in this match.
You also got the mention in this match of Powerhouse Hobbs out with the injury, and he's actually updated it. They tore his patella tendon, and I mean, not in so many words, but they pretty much stated that, you know, Cobb is taking Hobbs' spot here. Let's find another athletic big man, and they got Jeff Cobb for the role here. But then as the BCC are celebrating the win, Konosuke Takeshita appears from behind Jon Moxley, who is standing on the second turnbuckle, and he Germans Moxley off the buckle. Cobb and Fletcher join in when Claudio runs down with a crowbar that the announcers had a hard time describing, and Takeshita signals that he wants that IWGP title from Jon Moxley. Although, maybe that's a Forbidden Door direction, or maybe that's just going to be something we see on television in the coming weeks.
I'm assuming it's one of those TV defenses, you know, that New Japan wrestlers will be really upset about. I imagine he'd actually defend against a New Japan wrestler at Forbidden Door if he keeps the title.
Yeah, if he keeps the title. I mean, maybe Evil is going to reign supreme after Dominion.
Possible. He did hold his blackened IWGP World Heavyweight Championship up.
Yes. The House of Torture has now put their stain on the IWGP Championship. There was a feature on Swerve Strickland, including a bunch of the promotional, the PR work that he's been doing, going to various interviews, games and such, and then cutting into the attack by Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony last week. Cut to Adam Copeland coming out for his entrance, and he is jumped by Buddy Matthews and Brody King. He is sent into the steps, and out comes Malachi Black, and he asks why Adam keeps up this facade of who he thinks he is. And he has Buddy Matthews remove Copeland's wedding ring as Brody King is choking him out, and Adam goes out cold when Kyle O'Reilly runs down to make the save, but he gets nailed with a big lariat, and they are outnumbered, and he is hit with the end by Malachi Black. Not the message, the end. And all three strike Copeland simultaneously in the corner, and Malachi Black leaves with Adam Copeland's wedding ring.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've seen too many wedding ring angles in pro wrestling. I think I like it a lot. It's nice and personal. It doesn't require somebody to necessarily bleed, but it has that sort of like, ooh, I can't believe he did that sort of effect. He went too far, grabbed the wedding ring. What's he going to do with it? So I'm intrigued.
They also got the ring off with like little resistance. Like sometimes, if you've got that ring on, it could be like really, especially if it's like hot in the arena, you're kind of sweaty. I mean, it could have been a really like time staying still moment. You can get that ring off seamlessly.
Maybe they had like a stick of butter inside their pockets, ready to just get that thing out.
The tricks of the trade. Yeah. So we then get the update after showing highlights of Eddie Kingston and Gabe Kidd's match from Resurgence last Saturday, and they're attacked by the Elite. We see the nasty spot of Eddie Kingston with his leg going into the barricade. They cut to the Elite and state that Eddie Kingston might be out of Anarchy in the arena, so now it's going to be 4-on-3. And Okada then has a message for Dax Harwood, his opponent later tonight. I will destroy you, bitch. And we did get a post from one Eddie Kingston on Instagram with his leg in this big brace on the right leg. He's seated in a wheelchair with a quote from Dan Gable. And so that was the story on Eddie Kingston. He's out, and they need to find a replacement. So
the Elite were taking credit, basically.
Yes, that they took him out, and then the idea was they're going to try and take out Dax tonight, and they're just going to go one by one.
Yeah. I mean, very convenient, I suppose, that they can, they happen to have an AEW angle attached to that very unfortunate injury at a New Japan show. And, it's really making the best out of a really shitty situation.
Yeah, and certainly it's... Man, the way it worked out for like the reveal and the location that they were in, it just seemed as though, certainly, I mean, we'll probably hear more about like the status of Eddie Kingston's injury as well. If this was something pre-existing either, and perhaps that they had, the injury on Saturday, obviously not planned, but, you had the combination of he's dropping his final belt, and you had just this perfect setup for Darby Allin's return tonight. But anyway, that was the big angle on the show, that they would tease that they would find a replacement. The Young Bucks, they're putting out Reebok pumps. And we got this commercial with the Young Bucks and the Dark Order, and they're going to be wearing these pumps at Double or Nothing.
A Champs, I believe, specific, champsports.com specific collab. Will you be getting a pair of these?
Ordered 6 pairs already. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to be wearing these when we recap Double or Nothing.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah. I doubt these will be available. Do you think these will be available in Canada?
I mean,
if you buy them a limited online, release.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. No, probably not. Probably not going to be sporting these. Renee is with FTR, and they react to Kingston being out, but stated that they're not going to forfeit. They're going to. They might have found a fourth man, and Dax calls Okada the Elite's bitch. So that takes us to the Young Bucks against Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal, a title eliminator match with one of 2 title eliminators. Plus, we had a non-title match with Toni Storm tonight. So a lot of champions in action with no gold actually on the line. Jack Perry was on commentary. I was interested to hear Jack Perry do commentary. Didn't think he stood out too much in this match in terms of like a big personality on commentary for the 8.5 minutes we got him. Did you think, what did you think?
I didn't think he was either bad or good. I thought he was just kind of a, like a voice that fulfilled a role. Didn't really stand out.
That is the most praise you are going to find on commentary. He was a voice.
It'd be worse if he was bad.
Well, Christopher Daniels comes out, and they note the music he's coming out to is Frankie Kazarian, and they bring up the angle from 3 years ago when Daniels and Kazarian lost to the Young Bucks and SCU could no longer team together. So going pretty deep here to bring up a really old storyline involving them, and I like the fact that they did that.
I did too. This also, I guess, alerted me that Frankie Kazarian has a band.
Oh yeah, for a while.
Well, like he's got a new band, I guess, and this band is called. Did you catch the name?
No.
It's got some ridiculous name attached to it. Anyway, I'll look it up.
Well, the Bucks state that. The Bucks here. They messed up this tag, and the announcers called attention to it. That I don't think they tagged each other there, but they're just going to run with it. They take control of Sydal. Then Daniels gets the tag, and man, was this crowd into Christopher Daniels, who is not from Washington, and hits a flatliner DDT combo on the Bucks, Uranagi onto Nick, but then Matt lands a super kick.
Gutter candy. I'm sorry.
Sorry? Butter candy?
Gutter candy.
Oh, gutter. I thought it was butter candy. Gutter candy. All right. Great. Sydal is tossed over the barricade, and then Matt holds on to Nick, preventing Daniels from hitting a top rope Hurricane Rana, so he just crashes on the mat and is hit with the TK driver. They pin Christopher Daniels in 8.5 minutes. Not like a big Young Bucks match, even for television, but there was a lot of fire here from Christopher Daniels, and I was surprised how much the audience got into this. But you had a great promo from Christopher Daniels on Saturday to set up this match, and I thought that translated with this audience that really made Daniels the focal point.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's all entirely based off of the strength of that promo, and maybe just like the story that they were telling up until this point. You can always tell that sort of like veteran, story with a guy like Daniels. And I thought it was ultimately like it made for a heightened interest for this particular match. Overall, a fun Young Bucks match, but nothing that I think you'd remember too much beyond this.
The Bucks address Daniels and state that an executive should know better than putting their hands on them. And we're trying to clean up the locker room from toxicity. And I was like, uh-oh, is Christopher Daniels going to be banned from attending Collision?
He's going to be banned from everywhere, it looks like.
I know. This was, they state that Daniels is in fact fired, and he's going to get a 30-day severance package and be removed from the building. So Daniels is gone.
Mm-hmm. The way they said, you're going to get a sweet severance package for, you're going to get a check for the next 30 days, which I wonder how many checks that even is. They were very smarmy here. I thought really good heat for the Bucks.
And then all of a sudden we cut to Jack Perry at the broadcast position, and he just takes one of the Woo energies and dumps it all over Tony Schiavone. And
Awful.
he just calls him a son of a bitch.
Yeah, that stuff is probably like sticky.
Oh, it's probably disgusting.
Gross.
Yeah. Unfortunate here for Tony Schiavone. Renee interviewed Tony Storm and Mariah May, and we learned that Luther, May, and Saraya all banned from ringside tonight for the grudge match between Tony Storm and Harley Cameron. And Storm is glad that Serena Deeb knocked her out last week so she didn't have to listen to her sob story any longer, and says that at Double or Nothing, you're going to end up like every other degenerate in Las Vegas, flat on your back with an ass in your face, wondering where the hell your dignity went.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite the stipulation to place upon a match.
We'll see if she can achieve it. Yeah.
Malachi Black is on his own with the wedding ring, and this represents what is holding Adam Copeland back. This damn wedding ring. He said that when Adam challenged him to a barbed wire steel cage match, he knew there was a part of the old Adam that still existed. And he is willing to accept, but if Malachi Black wins, then Copeland must bend a knee to the House of Black. Be like, right. Bitch, I'm the champion, and I'm offering you this shot. You're going to take it on any provision I'm willing to offer. Bend the knee. I'm the champion here.
But he wouldn't get his ring back.
Well, he didn't exactly state that if I lose, you get this ring back either. That seems like that's going to be another challenge for Adam Copeland. Maybe they're going to hang this ring somewhere in this barbed wire steel cage.
A barbed wire steel cage bend the knee match. That might be a first.
A bend the knee for the ring. Yes. So there you have it at Double or Nothing. Probably a lot of blood in this one.
Yeah, I'm interested just based off of the match type alone between these two. A barbed wire cage match. It's going to be a spectacle, And again, I hope somebody like an Adam Copeland, he stays safe through what sounds like it could be a pretty, physically taxing match.
Well, I mean, he's been having some incredible matches of late, and I think he has been a very big positive on a lot of these programs and the types of matches that he's been doing and getting out of his comfort zone too in some of these as well. So that is official for Double or Nothing. Hook against Sebastian Wolf. This one went 28 seconds where Hook just threw him around, cross faces, and applied the red rum for the submission. And then Hook called out Chris Jericho, and he wants him and the FTW championship. So Jericho walks out with Big Bill. Jericho says that he loves sharing the spotlight. Hook says, I don't want to share the spotlight. I want it solely on you so they can see me beat your ass. And Jericho informs him, this is not a fighting moment. It's a teaching moment. And the world doesn't revolve around you, Hook. You've got to think of others. And the crowd starts chanting, please retire. And Jericho acknowledged the chant by stating, you want me to retire because of all the Wrestling Hall of Fames that I would be inducted into once I retire. Hook, you don't get a title rematch. You've got to work your way up, and you're going to have a qualification match on Saturday. And Hook takes the microphone and drills Jericho solidly on the head. And the announcers are laughing. They beat on Hook 2-on-1. Shibata runs out, boots Bill out of the ring. And all of a sudden, we see Jericho touching his head. And this guy got a massive wound on his head from this microphone spot because he had a bunch of blood coming out here.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
Holy Christ.
Yeah. It's the type of angle that you never want to see somebody get hurt like that, but if you're going to, let it be for the guy who doesn't really say much in his promos and instead just uses his physicality to do it. For Hook, a mic to the head probably said more than any big promo could have.
So there you have it. We'd have more blood on this show, but that was the segment here. And then as this segment is ending, as you can see here, we got the actual ending of the countdown clock. I mean, sometimes we get the countdown clock. I don't know if we ever get right down to zero. And as soon as it hit zero, boom, we cut to Swerve in the back, who cuts a promo that the Gates of Agony bit the hand that fed them and says, I was the one that was put in the coffin last year, but I'm putting Christian in the grave. And Brian Cage is the final nail in the coffin of the Mogul Embassy. So nice promo from Swerve. And that takes us to Swerve and Brian Cage in another eliminator match. Crowd is chanting Swerve's house at the beginning of this one, and Swerve goes after the left arm and shoulder of Brian Cage, and this would be his focus throughout the match. Cage manages to military press Swerve into the corner as they go into the picture-in-picture, and Swerve stops a powerbomb, runs Cage into the corner, and hits a running boot to the injured arm. And Swerve just pops up from a lariat, double stomps Cage, and then Swerve manages a deadlift brainbuster. And Cage kicks out of that. Swerve rolls into a knee strike. Weapon X is countered into a short arm scissors. And then Cage with the buckle bomb followed by an F5 gets a 2 count. And as Cage is holding on to the bottom rope by his legs, he is hit with a slingshot double stomp by Swerve, going to the floor, follows with the 450. Cage kicks out of that. And then after a counter to the drill claw, there's a pop-up into the stomp. And then he snaps the injured arm of Cage, hits the house call, and he pins Brian Cage after 14 minutes and 49 seconds, where they went all out in this one.
Yeah, I really like the match. Very athletic, great counters, and really good chemistry between the two. I think this was like a really good showcase for Swerve, taking on a bigger guy who could work like as dynamic of a style as Swerve can. So, obviously the history between the two and as stablemates, I felt maybe the breakup of the group a little bit rushed, but I don't know if there was really that much juice in perhaps Swerve versus any of the other members outside of Cage anyway.
Yeah, at least Brian Cage got the match. The Gates of Agony feel like they were just sent to sent to the side.
And the Nana question is still
no,
out there.
no Nana on the show again. So Swerve is going to further attack him with a chair to the shoulder when Christian walks out with Mother Wayne. And as Swerve goes to use the chair, Nick Wayne appears from behind, low blows Swerve. Kill Switch enters the ring, and they reveal that they have a photo of Swerve and his family. And they show it to Swerve and break it over his head, like the 180 from the gym angle last year. And this photo slices Swerve, and we go in tight on
the frame specifically.
The frame, yeah, the photo. And he's literally squirting blood over his right eye. I mean, this was a brutal cut that he got, and he's literally squirting blood out of the cut.
Yeah. And nobody was there to drink it.
No. Yeah, that's a good point. No one was going to drink this. So he's got to continue this angle. Christian says he embarrassed his son Nick by attacking him in his gym last year. Now I'm forced to embarrass you, Swerve. And asks, do you think your daughter is proud? And calls Swerve an absentee father, and then takes the photo and wipes the blood of Swerve over the photo, with Christian stating, tonight I took your blood. In 2 weeks, I take your world championship. Continuing his promise of taking something from Swerve every week. So a dreadlock, now his blood. I don't know. He better be watching those kidneys next week or something. I don't know what he's going to try and take on the Go Home show.
I really like the angle here, just the mirroring of the angle from last year, and basically sort of having to answer for all of his sins. So maybe when Hangman is about to feud with him again, he's going to have to deal with the home invasion. So I hope he's upping his security at home, sort of.
I really liked on Saturday the promo that Swerve did, kind of addressing some of the feeling that I think some have had, that since Swerve has won the title, he's almost gone so far away from the Swerve incarnation that got him to this role. And I think people do want to see this guy as an edgy character. They don't want to see him be so aligned, especially aligning yourself as like, Tony Khan's like protector or something. Like, you want this guy you want to understand what got this guy to this position and not abandon all of that edginess. And I think they addressed that Saturday and tonight as well.
Yeah, certainly with the amount of blood in this angle. So I'm looking forward to see how Swerve retaliates. Again, it's very important to make sure that you keep your security up.
AEW is launching a new YouTube show, A Meal and a Match, with Renee Paquette and RJ City, with their guest Eddie Kingston. And I think they mentioned this is already up. If you want to go,
I think so, on the
this.
TBS YouTube.
This seems like this would be up your alley.
Really?
No?
I might check it out. Sure.
Do some cooking.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, you won't check it out. It's not up your alley.
Maybe. We'll see. I'll see what people state about this show. It could have some promise. Renee interviews Hook and Shibata, and Hook doesn't care about any of the odds being against him. He needs to get his hands on Jericho. Shibata says he wants another shot at Jericho too. And Hook basically says, that's fine. You want to face me? The winner gets Jericho. And in comes Samoa Joe, who says to Hook, I thought you were something special, and here you are getting manipulated by Jericho. If you guys stop playing yourselves, maybe you'd be dangerous around here. And Joe walks off, and Hook just yells, I'll fight you, Joe! And then we go to Shibata, who miraculously never has to speak into the phone. It's just got the phrase all ready to go, and replies that Joe is too large for a floral pattern.
I don't think so. I disagree, Shibata. He looks great in this floral pattern.
This shirt does take a certain level of kind of
confidence.
Totally, yeah. Like, I'm gonna go on national television with.
Oh,
with
he can
this.
wear whatever he wants.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, that was Joe's role on this show.
Yeah, he seems to. I mean, Joe does. It's kind of evident to me that he probably doesn't have a match coming up at Double or Nothing, or at least no significant program. Like, he's really kind of there to almost play a coaching role for Hook. It feels like.
Timeless Tony Storm against Harley Cameron was next, and they had a very good match, I thought. The Fez Press was hit by Tony Storm, and they're cheering Tony, and then goes for the hip attack, and sends Cameron off the apron. Serena Deeb comes out, who they mentioned is not banned from ringside, so she gets to stand there. And Cameron is capitalizing off this distraction, running Storm into the steps. Then we had a spot where Cameron ran into the corner and just kind of launched herself onto Toni Storm, and clearly they were just on different pages here because Taz was like, that was a really interesting attempt. And then Harley just backs up and she redoes what they were aiming to do, where she lands on the apron. Other than that hiccup, this was fine. Backstabber onto Storm, DDT and Fisherman Suplex follows for a 2 count, and then a sky high with Cameron kicking out. They go back and forth with covers before Storm fakes her out with a high kick and leaves the opening to hit the Storm Zero and pins Harley Cameron in 7 minutes and 9 seconds.
Yeah, I thought Cameron did well overall, in these 2 matches. I found it interesting having Toni Storm wrestle as the babyface in this match, even though she's going up against Serena Deeb, who will be you would think would be the babyface in that match. Deeb as a challenger, like the promo last week, I thought was good.
This is such an AEW story where the woman who gives this heartbreaking promo about having multiple seizures is going to end up the heel in this. It's just such an AEW type of scenario where, that's kind of how they present their characters. Sometimes it's just you're not the flavor of the month with the audience, and Toni Storm very clearly is the audience's favorite here, and I think that'll extend to the pay-per-view. The
character is just, I think, it's a combination of just funny and also just completely unique and original, and it's really hard for all the other baby faces to kind of live up to that.
Arcady Oro was with Will Ospreay and the Undisputed Kingdom for their face-to-face, and they have agreed to no physicality. So that's nice. Ospreay explains that he has a sour taste in his mouth as they just stood around as Shane Taylor beat him up on Saturday, and asks why Roderick Strong is trying to play mind games by challenging him to unretire the Tiger Driver 91. And he says, Roderick, you never respected me in ROH, PWG, Progress, even Southside Wrestling. You could manage to respect me, you prick. He says, you have no respect for me, so I have none for you. You've always looked down on me. Strong agrees. I don't respect you. You have so much talent in the ring, but you're an idiot outside of it. You're still a little child, even though you have a family now. Strong overcame a traumatic neck injury, but I don't quit. I work for what I earn, and I don't care what everyone else thinks of you. Strong knows who Will is, and that is a fraud. So Ospreay says, you buried me to all the ROH guys. I'm the best wrestler of all time, and I'm going to prove why I'm the best. And I thought this was actually a pretty good segment that these two had. And also opting to do this backstage instead of in front of a crowd, which it makes you wonder if Ospreay was even at this show. Very well could have been taped at another time. But
it could also just be because it was so brief, didn't necessarily warrant entrances just to deliver a few lines back and forth.
And he is in Portland tomorrow night, so it would make sense that he was probably here for this.
Yeah, I thought it was an excellent segment. Ospreay has been so great in these sort of solo interview segments, but I think he's just as good doing these sort of face-to-faces. Told us the history between the two. Strong told us why he doesn't respect Will Ospreay. Lined out the current Tiger Driver 91 storyline, although we still didn't really get an answer from Roderick Strong about why he wants the Tiger Driver 91 to be unbanned. So maybe we'll get that later on.
Then we had a contract signing hosted by Renee with Will Nightingale and Mercedes Moné. And Willow says she respects Moné, but asks, do you respect the TBS title? This celebrates 50 years of wrestling on this channel, minus about 19 years in the middle there, but nonetheless. Says that now I am the face of TBS, and my smile is my strength, no matter what doom and gloom is out there, and I won't let you walk into AEW and take this away from me. And Moné says that she was out changing the game in 2015 in Brooklyn when Willow was still training. I broke down doors, took down glass ceilings. Willow, you wouldn't even be here without me. And Willow, you're a great champion, but there's a difference between being great and being the greatest of all time. And I will be the new face of TBS because the best part of your career was beating me. And now, after losing the title to me, it's still going to be the best part of your career because my legacy is all about winning. And Willow ends the back and forth stating the last time she walked out a champion, while Mercedes, you didn't walk out at all. And the crowd oohs at this line, and Mone slaps her and then goes to use the TBS belt on Willow, who ducks and puts her through the table, and with the Babe with the power bomb to conclude another, I thought, like, good segment building up the pay-per-view here.
I thought so too. Yeah, I think they've handled, like, whether or not you can consider a pivot, I think they've handled the heel babyface dynamics in this one pretty well. Mone at this point is being clearly positioned as the heel, but they're not being so overt with her to the point where she's making fun of the audience or something. She really is just kind of playing the same character and really being herself, and I think it's been effective. I thought Willow sounded good. I continue to be really impressed with her in this role, and it feels to me like she's gaining more and more confidence the more she gets these sort of chances to perform on the microphone. I really like the power bomb too. You know, it continues to make Willow look like somebody who's on the same level as Mercedes Mone, and it's most physical we've seen Mercedes Mone up until this point.
Yeah, and I think that they've done a very good job building this up as much more than just this title being kept warm for Mercedes Mone. I think a lot of steam behind Willow Nightingale here, who I think does a great job like stepping up into this role as TBS champion.
It's to the point now where, like, I'm kind of questioning what the result will be. You know, like, maybe if you asked me 2 months prior, I'm like, okay, for sure, Mercedes is going to win this one. But there's probably just as much upside to having Willow retain and getting that big win over Mercedes Mone. The big concern for me would be that Mercedes would win and then Willow would just be kind of forgotten about, which I think would be awful, because I think they've done great work with her over the past few weeks.
Well, that's the purpose, is put the outcome in doubt. And I think for this one, that is what they have attempted to do. So as a tremendous TBS champion, as they mentioned, goes back 50 years. And there's some people out there who have probably never even seen TBS, given their geographical limitations. So there's a chance that you too could experience the magic of TBS.
You know a lot of reasons by now why we love using NordVPN. It allows us access to geo-block services like AEW+. It helps us unlock cheaper prices for pay-per-views. But let's not forget a VPN's most important function, protecting your online privacy. If you do any sort of downloading of content, or if you regularly use Wi-Fi outside of your home, a trusted VPN helps mask your IP to protect your browsing from advertisers, hackers, and even your ISP. And while yes, the protection of a VPN may come with slower browsing speeds, NordVPN happens to be the fastest in the game. Named CNET's fastest VPN of 2024 through their extensive speed tests, Nord clocks an average download speed loss of just 11.1%, compared to Surfshark's 17% and ExpressVPN's 24.8%. Get the protection you need from the most reputable and fastest VPN on the market for just $3 a month. Sign up through nordvpn.com/postwrestling, where listeners can get 4 bonus months on top of all 2-year plans, plus a 30-day money-back guarantee. Again, nordvpn.com/postwrestling. Get your bonus months and let them know you found Nord through us. John Pollock, everybody. The one and only.
I'm holding on to this job by a thread because Way may fire me by the end of this month.
Very impressive. Like, we probably should have mentioned, we should have talked about it with each other before, but I just flashed that graphic up and you were just right on the ball.
Well, was AEW on the ball when it came to teeing up Collision on Saturday? Because they're taping it Thursday night in Portland. So we have a tape delayed, or a tape version of Collision. And so far, they have announced Will Ospreay against Shane Taylor, Serena Deeb against Anna Jay, and this is going to be a 3-hour block. So on Rampage, Deonna Purrazzo against Robin Renegade. Roosh is in action. They brought up this idea of a qualifying match with Hook and Shibata, but that was never listed when they ran through the lineup. So I don't know what's going on with that match. This kind of just feels like a 3-hour block to me. And I'm sure they're going to announce all this other stuff, but I mean, the show is being taped tomorrow. You would think they have a pretty good idea of what's happening on this show tomorrow.
At this point, this sort of rollout is kind of typical of what I expect of AEW, especially when with these 3-hour shows. It's the fact that they haven't really made any efforts to change tells me that they've been satisfied with whatever results that they've been getting.
Well, that's 3 hours coming up on Saturday night. And then we go to Kazuchika Okada and Dax Harwood in the main event spot for the Continental Championship. And Renee is the sideline reporter by the ramp, stating that she spoke to Dax earlier today and What he told her, she cannot repeat on national television, at least not this era of AEW. There was a time where they probably could have gotten away with the uncensored rant. But mentions that Dax thinks Okada is resting on his multi-million-dollar contract. So that's the animosity here.
I would.
Dax. Well,
take a nice nap on that contract.
Good for him. Okada's chest is very red early on from these chops, and Dax is then run into the post, injuring his shoulder. And this would be what Okada would focus on for much of the match. And Dax is selling and selling. He takes a draping DDT off the barricade and then collapses as Okada tries to lift him up to set up the Rainmaker. Tries again, and this time Dax ducks and lands a series of rolling Germans. Dax then blocks a drop kick, goes for the sharpshooter, and Dax is kicked into the corner. And it's Dax recovering, hitting a superplex, and then the two get on all fours and just headbutt each other. And to their credit, I mean, this arena exploded for these headbutt spots. I mean, I heard multiple pins drop during this exchange of heads clunking. There was a slingshot powerbomb that's reversed by Okada with a head scissors, and then Dax hooks the legs on the sunset attempt, a familiar finish for Okada. And then Dax lands the tombstone, hits the diving headbutt, which misses, and then he ducks the Rainmaker, goes for the sharpshooter, and it's a rope break for Okada. The end comes as Okada grabs the Continental Championship, tosses the belt into the ring, distracting Bryce Remsburg, and this allows him to kick the rope low into Dax's groin and set him up for the Rainmaker and pinning Dax.
This was an Okada match that was a lot more similar in pace to some of his Japan Pro Wrestling main events. You know, a relatively slow-paced opening, increased action towards the end. I thought it was a match kind of highlighted by Dax's selling, you know, which I thought was really strong. And overall, like, I think it was a good match overall. Not to the wow factor that you might express for some of these other AEW matches or even big Okada matches, but like it was a well-worked professional wrestling match.
Yeah, good at times, even like above that level. The finish was a little off-putting for me, especially for this championship that they gear so much around as kind of being, this is the non-bullshit championship matches that we present, but I understand what they are also building with these two as well and kind of giving it out here for Dax. But yeah.
For me, I think I still get a kick out of seeing Okada do this like American heel cheating that I still find it a bit of a novelty. So maybe it doesn't bother me as much.
Well, with Dax holding his balls after losing the match, the Elite run in, stomp him down, and then out come Cash Wheeler and Bryan Danielson, and they're being outnumbered 4-on-3. And we've got the graphic there with the silhouette of the mystery man that is going to be able to replace them when all of a sudden Darby Allin's music plays, and my God, did this place go nuts for Darby. And the man has officially overcome a bus to make it back in a very short amount of time, given all the injuries that he was dealing with. And in comes Darby, and the graphic just updates. It's like the Back to the Future photo. And there is Darby's image on the graphic. They spent all of 10 seconds leaving the drama of who would be whether Darby would be in the match. And that is our new match for Anarchy in the arena with the 4-on-4 match.
So it's amazing that this guy is healed from that bus accident.
Well, he's moving. He's mobile. God knows if he's healed.
He's got a week from Sunday, I guess, you know, so he'll be, I'm sure, more than ready by
It's
then.
a light match to come back to be fair. So
Yeah, of course. Not to mention the broken foot that took him out in the first place. And that, I guess the timeline for that seems to match what we might know about broken feet. But still.
I mean, that was like 2 months ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it took him out from Everest climbing, but you know he was probably always going to come back if he wasn't going to do it, and this seems to be really as good of a time as any. Like I saw maybe some complaint about there not being any AEW originals on the team AEW, and you know Darby Allin more than fulfills that. Like out of all your pillars, he's the guy who I think is the most representative of this company and the spirit of the promotion. So I think he's a great addition to the team in Washington with the reintroduction, no less.
Yeah. And as I said, I just think this worked out so perfect that like again, I'm not saying like I know what the status was of Kingston going into that match with Gabe Kidd, but just the way this played out, it's just he drops the title and you have Washington for Darby to return. Like this is how you would kind of map things out if you were to do that. So again, this is going to be a tremendous match. I think this is the match everyone is going to be most excited for going into the pay-per-view next month, and I think they've done a really good job of making Anarchy in the Arena feel like a hallmark match for the company. Even what they're doing with Claudio, the idea, I'll follow Danielson all over the world, but I cannot support him in this match, which they really didn't play that up tonight, like any of that. But I thought they did a great job of that on Saturday, where he walks out during the promo and then explains his reasoning on the Rampage portion later in the show.
Just might be a bit of a side story for Claudio himself, or maybe they'll pick up that thread after Anarchy.
So that was Dynamite. It had a very like go home feel to it, like going into the show. Like everything was, a lot of the segments were just about selling the respective matches for the pay-per-view. But we do have a week to go, 3-hour block on Saturday, Dynamite Wednesday, and then they've got Collision the night before at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, which has not been selling well for the night before at MGM.
I thought there were some good angles on tonight's Dynamite, you know, between the main event close, which I think they needed to do a little bit of a rush on, and just due to the location as well, announcing Darby Allin as a replacement for Eddie Kingston. I thought Willow and Mercedes Moné had a really good segment as well that built interest to the match. And, you know, you got a lot of blood on this in two different angles with weapons, with Hook and Jericho, and also with Swerve and Cage, which I thought was also a really strong segment as well.
Yeah, I think Swerve like donated enough for like Red Cross to be sufficient for 6 months.
Yeah.
So that was a really nasty cut that he had over the eye. But there you go. That was Dynamite. Good show. I would give it a definitely a pass. It was a very good show, I thought, overall.
I thought like
not top tier, but
yeah, maybe like in terms of wrestling, there was nothing that I felt was like, wow, you got to watch this. But it was like Dynamite is always good, but in particular to me, it's the angles that'll kind of make me remember the show a bit more.
Yeah, I would say like Swerve and Cage, the opening tag, and the main event too. Like you got some very, very good wrestling on here, but there was no Kosei Fujita El Desperado on this show, I will state. One of my favorite matches I've watched in a long time from the Best of the Super Juniors.
I haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, let's go over to the feedback forum, and if you want any super chats, you can send them in as well if you have any questions. Where shall we go, Way?
Let's go to forum.postwrestling.com.
We start off with Eric, who writes, tonight's contract signing was symbolic of Mercedes Moné's struggles to forge a connection with the AEW audience. Even within a scripted and presumably rehearsed piece designed to fit Moné's comfort level, Willow still seemed more authentic and grounded in her character than Mercedes did. Nightingale isn't just the bigger babyface, she comes across as a more contemporary superstar. Their match should remind fans of Moné's unique in-ring talents. Double or Nothing cannot come soon enough. I did think Willow had the better promo of the two as well. A lot is riding on this match. This is going to be a very very focused upon match for a lot of people of Mercedes Moné. It's a lot of pressure for her. She literally has not wrestled in a year, and this is going to be a match that, you know, there's always a high bar on AEW pay-per-views that she's coming in, and this has definitely been a run that, you know, just judging her on the out of the ring stuff, it has not been some, you know, stellar entry into AEW for Mercedes. Like, we have seen her struggle in a lot of these segments.
Yeah. It continues to, I think, be highlighted as the worst part of her, what she presents. But I think at least a good chunk of that has been handicapped by her being required to be a babyface. You know, and so like all these things that maybe Eric is bringing up about her struggling to forge a connection with the AEW audience, she doesn't need to anymore, you know, now as a heel. In fact, like, she shouldn't be authentic. She shouldn't be grounded. And I'm at least happy to see that they're leaning towards the other end, because it feels certainly a lot more natural for the boss or CEO character. Let's go to Steve Grosweed, who says, better episode than the past couple weeks for me. Lots of pay-per-view build. Cool to see Darby back. He fits in as an anti-establishment character that works against the execs. Am I reading too much into it, or should Willow not have referred to her entrance video as her Titantron? Is that too brand specific?
I didn't even catch it. I saw people commenting on this. I don't know. It's just
I didn't notice.
I don't take stuff like that too seriously.
Nor do I think that they care all that much. I mean, it's just what wrestling fans call the screen. You know, maybe it's a phrase that they should get away from. But don't they say gorilla?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty universal. Yes.
Yeah.
Bruce Lord writes in, a hot live crowd, though not as hot as Vancouver's, I'm proud to say. The three main matches, the opener, Cage Swerve, and the main event, got the biggest reactions from the crowd by far. After the broadcast, Dax, Danielson, and Darby talked for about 9 minutes, with Danielson passing the torch to Darby as the next Washington State guy. The whole crowd, Dax congratulated his partner on beating gun charges, prompting a he's not guilty chant from the crowd. I wasn't sure how to feel about that. In any case, between tonight and Saturday, Cascadia was treated to a good amount of the sort of in-ring that AEW needs to keep delivering. Wow, what an interesting post-match announcement. Hey, y'all, I just want to say that my partner here, he beat the gun charges.
I imagine it would have been said with a bit more subtlety than that, but I mean, who knows?
Well, there you go.
Yeah. The next Washington State guy. I mean, what about Swerve? He's your champion.
Well, he's
the guy after Swerve. Is that what Danielson is saying?
I mean, I'm going off of what Bruce said here. He's nominated Darby as the next Washington State guy.
Okay. Well, maybe that's enough basis for a future match between Swerve and Danielson. You forgot about me. Matthew England says, as organic as Willow's rise has been, I really don't want her to lose the title this quick, but I feel like she will. It seems as if Statlander and company are going to screw her at Double or Nothing, which will pull her away from the championship. Willow is one of the 2 female stars in the company who constantly get big reactions, the other being Toni Storm, who for some reason is a heel. The Ospreay Strong promo was great stuff. This guy really needs to be positioned as the biggest star in the company. I can't imagine him not winning the title at Wembley this year. I think the jury is still out on the Young Bucks Jack Perry angle, although if ratings and quarter hours are any indication, it's not off to a hot start. I think all of these guys are tremendous in-ring performers, but like many in AEW, they lack a lot of character depth that the fans need in order to really buy into them. Not to steer too much off Dynamite, but I did have a question. What is the next step in the Grant lawsuit? Will a judge decide whether or not to compel arbitration?
Ultimately, that decision, has to be made of like what venue this is going to be heard in front of. With, of course, like with the filings this week, all of the 3 defendants are all pushing for arbitration, but there are probably going to be delays and responses. But that's kind of the next major decision to be made is whether this goes through to arbitration or if this will go in front of a court. So that's, the next major step. And Muggin, weeks and weeks of Mercy being passive-aggressive towards Willow gave this feud some much-needed life in the contract signing. Willow hit a home run by being the chip-on-her-shoulder champion, and the powers that be leaned into Mone going heel, which should have happened sooner. It's in a better place as long as the whodunit doesn't rear its head. Darby Allin must be a mutant to come back from months after a broken foot. Sucks to hear about Eddie Kingston bowing out, but Darby's homegrown status is a suitable replacement for Anarchy in the arena. Matches were entertaining, despite the predictability. All right.
Cool.
The mutant, Darby Allin. How timely. The
Like
Wolverine of... Yeah, okay. Well, there is everyone's thoughts on AEW Dynamite from Everett, Washington. Again, they are taping Collision Thursday night in Portland at the Moda Center. So that will be for Saturday night's 3-hour block. And of course, you can tune in on the Post Wrestling Cafe for Kate from Montreal and John Cena with their rundown of AEW Collision and Rampage. Again, a reminder that Way and I will be up on the Post Wrestling Cafe Thursday with the ASK-A-WAI Mailbag show. So you still have several hours to get your questions in. Forum.postwrestling.com or send in your voice messages to memo.fm/postwrestling. It's free to submit. Anyone can submit questions, and we will get to all of them on the ASK-A-WAI Mailbag question. All questions are welcome. Try to refrain from tell us your top 15 anythings. We're not good with lists. It's just a handicap of ours. But we look forward to hearing from all of you with your questions. Way, what are you going to get up to tonight?
I'm going to go right to sleep because my throat is killing me.
No.
Whatever bug you had, I feel like you infected me through these microphones over the past week. So we'll be. I'm going right to sleep after this.
Okay, everyone, keep weighing your thoughts, and we will be back on Thursday And Way's going to have to talk some more. But that's it for us. Good night.